a Noble Media Group member.
America's known our share of tyrants. In response to tyranny, we created one of the greatest guiding documents ever written by mankind. We stood for what was right. We've also made mistakes, but we corrected those mistakes by fighting for what was right both inside our borders and beyond. Today, America faces another challenge: Christian nationalism. Misguided faith and misguided patriotism justifying misguided deeds.
Would turn the hearts of those who are in power and position to make decisions.
Preach the lie.
That's not who we are, America. The Constitution is as true today as the day it was ratified. America stands for freedom, and America stands for doing what's right. And it's time we start restoring the American dream. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Restoring the American Dream. It's Brian Mistro. I am broadcasting here, of course, from the USS Minnow. And hello, Michael, my friend. How are we doing today?
We are doing great in the city of brotherly love in Philadelphia, getting ready for the 250th celebration. And we've got the World Cup, and so Philadelphia is alive and buzzing. And so happy to be in the, here with the Restoring the American Dream. And we have a very special show tonight, and we have a very special guest who I'll introduce in just a second. But tonight's subject is, free and fair elections. We cannot have a nation. Our nation was built on the foundation that the government is only, has to have the consent of those governed, that power has to be given by those governed. And the way that we express our power, the way that we express our consent to that power as citizens is the vote. And so without free and fair elections, we have no democracy or no democratic republic
100%.
as we do. And so that's the
100%.
essential. But I want to, when we talked about having Robert on, I was like, oh my goodness, is he available? His writing and his stand-up gigs and all the stuff that he's done. I've been a fan of Robert's and a friend for many years as a conservative. Or in New York City, there were very few of us. There were very, very few of us, and so I was always mesmerized anytime I got the chance to hear Robert. But Robert, welcome to Restoring the American Dream.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Brian. I've been watching from afar. This project of yours has been evolving and expanding, and it's an honor to be here. Michael and I first met probably 10 to 15 years ago when I was on the editorial board of the New York Post. And Michael was trying to, run for office in this, in what was even then, this Democratic. It's not a wasteland, but it's a it's a heavily Democratic city, heavily Democratic state. I mean, more so now than it was then.
Right.
But we ran a couple of pieces by Michael on the Post op-ed pages, and I've always been a fan of his as well. Now you're a veteran of the New York Jets, which is now the longest suffering team in New York since the Knicks finally broke through a couple of weeks ago.
That was going to come up.
Yeah, so I went from the New York Post to the Daily News and had a stint at Bloomberg, and now I've actually been very happy over the last 6 weeks. We launched this good government organization called Citizens Union, which focuses on voter education, civic engagement, anti-corruption stuff. They decided to create an opinion and policy site space on their website, and they asked me to come in to edit it, and it's been
Congratulations.
absolutely great. We've been getting elected officials. We had, candidates, academics, and so forth. Just writing about a number of different things, and I'm looking forward to getting even more diverse voices in there who want to, talk about how uh, New York City and New York State can, better, give voters and residents a better return on their dollar.
Nice,
Wow. Wow.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, listen, it is desperately needed, and they're very wise to have you kind of sifting through some of that malaise. So
Searchlight, by the way, I don't think I mentioned it. Yeah, Searchlight is the name of our little online policy journal. Yeah, so there you go.
okay.
Nice, nice, nice. Congratulations.
Well, it's great to have you. Great to
Yeah,
have
It
you.
is.
So
it's good to be here. Yeah.
so and would love to hear your feedback on the Save Act, which is as it's clumsy as it may be, but or whatever. But what's your opinion on that? And then Brian has some
I got a
statistics.
slide and Robert, I'm assuming you followed this because I know you follow politics pretty closely. If it'd be helpful, I could put up the slide that hits some of the main points on it, and
Why
then
don't we do? Yeah, why don't we do that?
yeah,
Why don't we do that first? Because
let's
since
let's
even though I do follow these things for the last 6 weeks, I've been sort of immersed more in local and state politics rather than what's going on nationally. Though but
sure,
I know obviously the general framework of the Save Act as you do.
right.
So
So let me go ahead. I'm going to put the slide up, folks. And again, for those that are just listening,
actually,
or you're just trying
I
to
think
watch
it's
it, it's
formally speaking the Save America. I think it's the
the
Save
Save
America Act
America Act.
because there's another Save Act which is something slightly similar but something slightly different
It's
to
the
that.
watered down version of the Save America Act, and you're
Mhm.
absolutely right. So let me just hit on the Save America Act, what it is for those that are watching. You can see the slides up here. Let me just read them off, and I'm not going to read the entire slides. I think that would be a little bit too much. But there's 4 to 5 key points of it. Number one, proof of citizenship for registration. In other words, you've got to prove that you're a citizen to be able to register to vote. Number two, national photo ID mandate. Number three, absentee mail-in ballot rules. And number four, federal database audits. Those are the most critical. I do want to I do want to ad lib just a little bit because again, I'm not going to read the entire thing. The mail-in ballots would effectively be killed through the Save America Act. Would no longer allow mail-in ballots, and unless you were military or a couple of other disabled, and there was a couple of other things, and so that would especially disenfranchise states like I live in Washington State, where we've done this for 15 years or something. So it's a part of it. Another problem with it is the voter ID, and I'm not even going to get to my biggest problem with it yet. But the voter ID part of it is you would have to, if you did mail in vote, or if you just dropped your ballot off at a ballot box, you would be required to have a photocopy of your ID, put it on it. I have a major issue with that. And number three, the requirement that the federal government has control and has all the voter databases of every single state. So I'll pass it off over to you now, Robert.
So
What do you think?
uh, let's go with the last part first, and that is actually something that you're not going to hear this from any of the Republicans on the Hill who are supporting the president, but you will hear this from uh, state state Republican officials. The idea of turning over the state voter rolls to the federal government is anathema to people from across the spectrum. if you're an old school conservative like Reverend Faulkner and myself and so forth, the idea, I mean, if you told us 20 years ago that it would be the conservative position that states should turn over the voter rolls to the federal government, heads would be exploding.
Exploding.
It's just absolute. They have been, and the Trump administration has been trying to do this with numerous states on a case by case basis, and they've been getting pushback from Republican states and Democratic states as well. In fact, I think it was just in the last week, the president said he wasn't going to sign this rare bipartisan housing bill unless the Save Act was passed, and unless states started handing over the voting rolls. So that's number one. On voter ID, I don't have an issue necessarily with the way what you were describing in terms of dropping the ballot off, making sure you're the person that's dropping off. I don't have as much of an issue with that. The problem that many of us who support voter ID have with what the Save Act is supposed to be doing is that if you want to try and prove your citizenship, you have to use something like either a birth certificate. Maybe maybe they've got the birth certificate, maybe they don't. But most likely they're going to demand a passport. Now, here's the great irony about this. Anybody who's done I hate to use the cliche, done a deep dive into this, can tell you that demographically speaking, Democrats are more likely to have a passport than Republicans are. And that's why when you start doing these surveys, have you ever visited a country outside of the United States? Most of those who have not visited a country outside of the United States tend to be more on the conservative side, tend to be more Republican. Those who've gone to multiple different countries, seen the world, all this other kind of stuff, tend to be liberal, tend to be progressive, tend to be Democrats. So if you're saying that a passport is one of the major forms of ID that you need for your voter registration, as it is right now, the odds are more likely that that's going to empower Democrats, and Republicans are going to be having to like scurry around, figuring out how to get a passport. So just from a tactical, I mean, it's the World Cup is going on. Let's call this an own goal, in that context. So those are some of the issues that people have with the Save Act. There are 53 Republicans in the Senate. It is very, very clear that at minimum there are, well, actually not minimum, there are 4 or 5 announced votes against it, including Mitch McConnell, Tom Tillis, Lisa Murkowski.
I think Collins too.
I think Collins as well, and somebody else that has like really pissed off. Can I say pissed off? Yeah,
Cornyn?
Has pissed off.
Or Cassidy, I can't remember.
The Trump is pissed off, like possibly Cornyn, but but just like 2 years ago, when the Democrats had control of the Senate, and progressives were upset that Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema would not overturn would not get rid of the filibuster. Everybody who has been following that issue closely knew full well that Sinema and Manchin were taking hits for at least another half dozen Democrats who also didn't want to vote on getting rid of the filibuster, but they were keeping quiet. Same things going on here. I would quite honestly be surprised if if you just if you did a silent poll of Republican senators. I would be surprised if there are 40 Republicans who are actually pro the Save Act. And by the way, even if all of them decided to support it, it's since they're not going to get rid of the filibuster, which is something Trump also wants them to do. Since they're not going to get rid of the filibuster, Democrats are going to would manage to shut it down. But even if for some reason you got Democrats on board, it's July 1st. It's basically July 1st. It's the halfway. It's the middle. It's literally the middle of the year. There is no way state election machinery can be brought up to speed in terms of trying to do what the Save Act is. Something this massive in terms
Right.
of getting the entire state, the entire country on the same page with all of these things. You would at minimum need a year or so, quite possibly almost 2 full years to get up to speed on this. So it's all performative.
It's been my
Sorry to
position.
filibuster. I apologize.
No. It's okay. It's okay. It's been my position throughout this entire dialogue. Every time elections are mentioned with this administration or with this president, every time they're mentioned, I'm saying you're doing a disservice to the American people because you are undermining their trust and their faith in this sacred act. You are, because when people feel like, so already we have statistics that say, how many people didn't vote and how many less people are voting. And yet you're continuing to cast doubt and dispersion on the process itself. And that is undermining democracy. It is undermining the sacred trust that we have in an act that everybody should be able to participate in fairly, unobstructed by gerrymandering or which has already happened, and they've done everything that they can. I hate the fact that this administration uses politics to undermine democracy. It's so short-sighted.
Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
does not.
And Michael,
Yeah.
It's counterproductive for the president's own aims, and I've got a really very clear example of that. So in 2020, we had the election, and something that Republican appointees can't say. Joe Biden won. Joe Biden won in 2020. President Trump, of course, was fuming and still saying it was rigged, and elections in the states were stolen, and so forth. Now, he said the same thing in Georgia. Now, Georgia, though, of course, was having a runoff because you had because of appointments and things like that. You had an unusual circumstance where there were two Senate races, two U.S. Senate races going on simultaneously.
Yep.
And Georgia has a runoff system that if no one gets 50%, it has to go to a runoff. And so that means now what they do though is very strange, because the runoff isn't even in the calendar year. It's like it's like the 5th of January of the next year, which I don't know why Georgia does it that way, but that's what they do. So, but the president from election day on kept on saying this was rigged, it was stolen, it was rigged, it was stolen, blah, 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 blah. So Georgia Republicans heard that, and you suddenly saw this incredible drop off of support from Republicans, because they said, I'm not even gonna bother. The Democrats are gonna win this. The president keeps telling me that the whole system's rigged. And so as a result, Republicans lost two um, two Senate seats that they could have split. They could have conceivably won both of them, but the president, because of his own petulance, uh, basically suppressed his own base, and so as a result, you have uh, we have Senator John Ossoff, and we have Senator
Warnock.
um,
Warnock.
Warnock. Yeah, Senator Warnock, and there we go.
Hey, listen, it undermines it, not just him, it undermines also. Brian, you have a slide on the statistics on how many people are voting or how many less people are voting now.
Yeah, I
You have,
do. So I'll put this up, and this was from John Cornyn earlier today. And he's not the first person to point this out, but I think if we look down from 10,000 feet and we take a realistic view of where we are 250 years into this experiment, this statistic is just a bit depressing. So I'm going to go ahead and quote it for those that are just listening and don't want to read the slide. It says, quote, "What is self-government anyway? Roughly one-third of eligible voters failed to vote in the 2024 presidential election." Why? Why? If you're not, they didn't say American citizens. This was registered voters. Why would that many people not vote when you've got and love or hate Harris? That's fine. I don't care. But you've got somebody that, in my opinion at least, was directly responsible for January 6th. And so much of the division that's in our country, and now we're 250 years into this, and you're not even going to bother to vote. So, Michael, why? I don't. That's just such a depressing figure.
we for generations we've been saying this, and I've been this is my soapbox now that I've been on, is like restoring the American dream means we've got to engage Americans again in
Right.
taking back our nation. One of the things that I've talk about deep dive. So I've been binge watching, listening, reading, the American not just the Constitution, but the stories from the American Revolution. And there's a lot of good stuff out there.
Yeah.
There's a plug for the Netflix series. It's really good. I mean, there's some good history involved, I mean, it's really, really balanced and good. But anyway, my point is, the revolution was bloody, it was messy, it was not this glamorous thing, it was a mess. For 8 years, the United States, there was just no way, and once we had stepped out in rebellion, it was like, oh, we stepped in it now, so we're in it,
Right.
and there's no retreat. And it worked. It worked. And then after we won the war, now we had to create a government, and from scratch.
Right.
I mean, literally from scratch. And it has been this uphill climb for years, and we get to the Civil War, and it comes apart, right? And thank God for Lincoln, because they had kicked the can down the beach. They knew it was going to come to an impasse at some point, and it did, and it almost. So here we are now, 250 years later. Where are we? We cannot afford to undermine our democracy. We've got to bring this generation back into the fold and let them know that their consent is absolutely required if government is going to work properly. We have got to do that. And we've got to be honest, we've got to expose all those that want to suppress their vote, whether it's because they aren't voting for the right candidate, or they have some other political agenda in mind, they're short-sighted. We've got to come back to this understanding, this fundamental understanding and agreement that, hey, listen, without the citizens, we have no country. Without the citizens' voice, we have no country. And honestly, as frightening as it is, and what's going on in New York, Robert, just with the Democratic Socialists, the young people who are behind that, they think it's a political party. They don't understand it's a movement away from democracy as we
Yes, it
know
is. Yeah,
it. And
so let me
And I would,
we've only
so
got
go ahead.
we've only got 5 minutes, so let me just it's and I'd love to hear that because I want to really focus on this. Uh, Michael and Robert, yeah, we've got a problem. My question would be, how do we get out of this? What's the solution when you have the majority? If you didn't see the poll today, the majority of Democrats um, have now believed that the country, the United States of America, is less appealing to them than it's been for 20 or 30 years. And we've got an entire group of people that aren't voting. We've got an entire group of people, the DSA movement. What's our solution out of this? And I know we've only got a few minutes left, so what, how do we get out of this? I guess I'll start with you, Robert, and then Michael, because you bring up some really good points, Michael. You're 100% correct.
I wish I had a more optimistic view because everything that Michael said, I co-sign on that. But we have, and I don't know whether I think part of it is some of the deterioration that happened because of the pandemic and right afterwards. But we have an entire generation of younger people who have basically feel that the institutional framework around them has failed them, and so you have this sort of a nihilistic aspect on, say, the far right, and you have this utopian socialism, looking for the next shiny thing on the left. And so when you've gotten to that point where neither side is really believing in the American dream, believing in the optimistic, joyous idea of America. You start the country, just like that generation, starts lurching into a very dark place. And as members of the older generation, we have to try and do our best to stop it. But I'm not quite sure if I have a solution right now.
Michael, what do
yeah,
you think?
I think, I wish that we could take that energy that's in the DAC movement and, you know, bring it to just the American movement. I was enthralled by, President Obama's, kind of comments at the opening of his library, and
Mm,
it came under great attack, and I don't care. I like the speech.
yeah,
I enjoyed the speech because it started with America. It started with our democracy, and so if we can get this generation to understand where we come from, and that's all of it, all of the history, right? Where we come from, then they can appreciate where they have to take it, where what the baton is passed to them.
oh man, that is a great line, Michael. That is a great line. We got to put that one as a quote. That's a great line, my friend. Okay, we've got 1 minute left. I'll just push it out there. We're 250 years into this, in a minute or less. Robert, are you enthusiastic about where we are as a country and where we're going?
I'm not enthusiastic about where we are right now, but I am. I think you both may know. I'm an immigrant. I came over to the United States in 1971 with my mom, and so that's whatever it is, 55 years. And America, I've lived in and visited other places. America is the greatest country in the world, and it's depressing to see the point where we are, but we have to realize that we cannot just not our faith put not our faith in men, because men will fail you, will fail us. But we've got to put our faith in the ideals that the founders put down 250 years ago, and just pray, and then start doing the hard work to keep those ideals alive for the next 250.
Michael, are you optimistic? What do you think?
Well, I'm usually optimistic. That runs through my veins.
You
However,
are, you are, you are,
yeah,
you
yeah,
are.
it's a lot of hard work ahead of us. And so if we can find some young people that are willing to listen and put in the work, if we can put in the work telling the story, it's not they have to follow us, but they have to follow the breadcrumbs that have been laid for 250 years
Yeah,
about what this democracy means and what it means to take it to the next level.
yeah. Well, I'm optimistic. I've got two kids. One's 22, one's 20, just turned 26, as a matter of fact, both boys. And I'm optimistic, but I'm very concerned. I don't like where the country is right now. I think there is a gross division growing amongst us. And I'm not a historian, but I'll just say that I have no doubts that America has been divided. Civil War, as bad or as worse than this, but we can't downplay right where we're at right now as a country, which is very divided, and a whole lot of people that are very unhappy. I just want to say thank you, everybody that joined us tonight. Please subscribe to the Noble Media Group. Subscribe to the show, Restoring the American Dream. Michael does a fabulous job with this. Really deep dives on a lot of stuff. We've also got the political arena, which you can follow, the Thursday Thoughts. We've got the Hinge of History, which is a completely apolitical show, simply about what's happening right now in AI. We've got, I think, two more shows that we may be launching soon. We'll see. We'll know more soon. And it's good to have. Hopefully, we'll get Robert on a lot more. We have two other people we think we're going to be the well-known people that we will have on the shows. And we thank you so much, Robert, for joining us tonight, because you bring some really, really good perspectives. And it's been a pleasure to have all of you. And so thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. Thank you so much, Robert. Michael, you're awesome as always. So thanks, everyone. We'll see
Like
you
it,
here
share it,
Thursday. All right.
subscribe.
Take care.
All right.
You've been watching Reverend Michael's Restoring the American Dream. The Noble Media Group is on all major social media platforms. Make sure to give us a follow so you can watch this show and many others.
A Noble Media Group member.